So we've talked about random systems, chaotic systems, complex systems, complicated systems. What about path dependency? Path dependency in a system is, you can think of it like as a thought experiment, right? Systems can be path dependent or path independent. But imagine you have a bowl, right? It's a large mixing bowl like you're doing, and you have a marble. If you turn that bowl upside down, so the open part's facing the floor, and you put a marble on the top, you can balance that marble on the very top. So now you've got a marble on the very top of the bowl. If you give that marble a nudge in any direction, it's going to hit the slope downward and it's going to take off and roll across the floor. That is a path-dependent system. What that means is a small initial nudge of energy in any direction creates path dependency. Once that marble gets rolling, gravity is going to take it and it's going to drop it down that slope and roll it across the floor. It's not going to turn around and come back up to the top and balance itself. Those are path-dependent systems. Path-independent systems is if you take the bowl and turn it right side up, so the open side's facing up, you put the marble in the center of the bowl, and now if you give it a nudge, it will go a little bit up the side of the bowl, but then gravity will pull it back down into the center of the bowl. And so path independency means that even if you're giving it energy, you can't get it to veer away from the same path it was going to be on. And that's the difference between path dependency and path independency. How does this relate to the US election? The US election as a system, any one election at times feels very path dependent. You know, who got out front with fundraising and publicity? Who won the early primaries? Those initial energy motions feel like they create a path which is going to go off and not be able to come back and go in a different direction. It feels very path dependent. You know, first mover advantage, you know, did you break out of the fundraising and get more money than the other person early on? Did you get early supporters? These are all characteristics of path dependency. But in a larger context, the US electoral system is very path independent. We have a winner-take-all election. That means a two-party system is going to be favored. It's very difficult, no matter how much energy you put into hitting that marble, if you're a third party or a candidate that doesn't come from one of the main parties or isn't one of the main favored ones, you can put a lot of energy in and it may go up a bit onto this curve in a path independence, but it's going to fall back and settle in that, because these are, and what these two things mean, path dependency or path independency, has to do with the feedback loops that we talk in this complex structure. Positive or compounding feedback loops take in energy and compound it on top of each other. It's reinforcing, it's accumulating, compounding, doubling. So as you flick that marble in a path-dependent system, it's got a positive feedback loop. It gains a little acceleration and then more and more and more, and that drives it out to go further. Path independent, these are called negative or balancing feedback loop dominant systems. You can put a lot of energy in, but the dominant forces of the system are going to take that energy, exhaust it, and drive it right back into that marble resting in the center of the bottom of the bowl. And a lot of people, you know, if I could explain a lot of reactions I see on Facebook to every presidential election cycle, it's this tension between path dependency and path independency. I thought my person was a front runner. I thought I had a shot, but the two-party system dominates that balancing feedback effect. There are things that are going to constrain, and that's why you tend to see a narrow range of outcomes. And all governments have these two tensions in them as a system. But what's important to understand as a complex system is all complex systems are going to have elements of path dependency and path independency. The question to ask is which is dominant. Ms. Falconberry's asking, is the election a chaotic system, not a complex system? I'd say it's more of a complex system than a chaotic system, because it does have scenarios in it where feedback affects. Chaotic systems are often typified by the initial small perturbation of the system creates the butterfly flaps its wing and we get the hurricane. Election systems have enough complexity and enough feedback that even with that small initial thing can be overwhelmed by later feedback effects. Take, for example, what I just described as path dependency and path independent. If the US system was completely path dependent, there was no balancing feedback in that system, it wasn't complex in that regard, yeah, it may be more chaotic. But because of the strength of those balancing feedback loops, that bowl that's right side up where the marble's at the bottom and you flick it and it goes up and comes back down, there are certain balancing effects in this complex system that drive, regardless if you're the third party candidate, and like, this is probably going back in time, Ross Perot had a great third party candidacy historically, got a lot of attention, a lot of momentum, really was on the debate with the presidents, but the path independency, the balancing focus of those complex system drove the results back to that two-party system. Appreciate your time today. If you have any questions on structured systems thinking, have a problem you'd like our help on, or want to know more about developing your own capabilities in systems thinking, please reach out at the email below. We'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in what we do and want to follow our journey, I've added our LinkedIn and Twitter information. And we plan to regularly update this channel with quick tips and case studies to help you get the most out of your systems thinking and lean efforts. If you want to be notified whenever we add new video content, please consider subscribing to this channel by clicking on the red subscribe button below this video.